Good evening and welcome to Dorchester School District 2 Virtual Academy Parent Information Night. We are glad that you're able to join us tonight and learn more about our newly created Dorchester 2 Virtual Academy. My name is Greg Harrison and I'm the Executive Director of Secondary Schools, and I'm joined my co-presenter tonight, Ms. Lori Estep, and she is the Executive Director of Elementary Schools. And we're going to do the presentation together, and we're going to cover both elementary and secondary information, mainly because our families, we've discovered, have students who are in elementary, middle, and high school. So we want to make sure that you get information, or you may know someone that you're able to relay some information to that could not join us tonight. So we felt like it was important that we share all of the information with you tonight. A couple of reminders, friendly reminders. All guests are going to be muted throughout the meeting. And we're going to present information, but we have a strong team behind the scenes that are going to be answering your Q&A. So if you would please post questions in the Q&A box as you have them, and our team behind the scenes will answer those questions as quickly as they can. We have representatives from the curriculum and instruction team, special services, and really just a really good group of folks that are working diligently to answer your question as you post them in the Q&A. If time permits, what we will do is we'll try to answer and stay on and answer as many questions as we can. We will have a live, maybe answer some questions if time permits that are in the Q&A, and just try to make sure that we give you as much information as we can tonight. A copy to the link to this presentation will also be posted online with the recording of this meeting, and that will be online tomorrow, and we will give you information about where that is at the end of the presentation. Dorchester School District 2's mission. Dorchester School District 2 is leading the way every student, every day, through relationships, rigor, and relevance. And our vision, Dorchester School District 2 desires to be recognized as a world-class school district, expecting each student to achieve at his or her optimal levels in all areas, and providing all members of our district family with an environment that permits them to do their personally best. I want to first start out tonight. We're going to be focusing a lot, and this is our presentation, is on the Dorchester 2 Virtual Academy. But our district has submitted our learning option plan to the South Carolina Department of Education on July 16th, and we're waiting for feedback and approval on our school-based instructional model. So our parents will have a choice whether their students are going to elect to come back to the school-based instructional model, or students could elect to attend our virtual academy. In our school-based model, you'll see that there are 3 different methods and models of instruction. Parents, if you elect to choose the school-based model, you won't get to choose exactly which one of those 3, whether it's an e-learning, hybrid, or face-to-face. The school district will make that determination based on DHEC feedback, recommendations, and the disease activity level that DHEC puts out weekly. So depending on that feedback, students may be in an e-learning environment. They may be in a hybrid environment, which in the hybrid schedule, students would come to school on an A-B day, and 50% of our students would be in the school building at one time, following safety protocols and precautions as outlined by DHEC. One thing I would like to mention, neither the Dorchester 2 Virtual Academy or e-learning will look anything like we just experienced in the spring. When schools had an emergency closure by the governor, we were provided very little notice from our governor, and our teachers had very little time to prepare for what we were about to enter. But our teachers did a great job of pulling resources and putting paper packets together and having pickup and drop off of information for students. This year will be a whole lot different because we're not doing paper pickup. We've been prepared. Our teachers have been preparing. We've had professional development, which we'll talk about again later in the presentation. But also our students, with our extensive technology plan in our district, our students will be issued a district technology device. So every student will have access to a device this year. So no paper packets. Our students will have computers, and everything will be done virtually. Now, the difference between e-learning and the virtual academy is the big question that we get. So I'm gonna try to answer that one thoroughly at this point. E-learning is, again, the school-based instruction when parents choose, I'm gonna send my student to school, and based on what DHEC regulations and recommendations and disease activity level, whether we're high, medium, or low, we will make the determination we're going to do e-learning. Well, what does that look like? Your student will have their current teacher that they have in the brick and mortar, whether they're face-to-face or on the hybrid or their e-learning. They will continue to keep that teacher throughout that process, whether we move from e-learning to hybrid, they keep the same teacher. If we move back to a face-to-face model, they will keep that teacher as well. So the teacher never changes. Those students stay with those teachers, and they have synchronous and asynchronous live sessions and also offline activities that they will be doing virtually. So e-learning also, we are an e-learning district now, so it doesn't just apply to the DHEC disease activity level. If we have a hurricane, or if we have a flood, or if we have any other disasters, natural disasters, weather days, students will also be participating in e-learning on those days to receive credit for those days through the State Department. So we are an e-learning district. All right, so how is the virtual academy different? The virtual academy is different because it has nothing to do with the disease level and the disease activity level or any feedback from DHEC, because students who elect to go into the virtual academy, virtual learning is what path that they are choosing. 100% online virtual learning. Students that enjoy learning online, students who are successful learning online, regardless of what COVID-19 or anything else that may come at us in the future holds, then nothing changes with the student situation in the virtual academy. Ms. Easton, would you like to add?
Sure. Just again to try to help differentiate the difference between the e-learning and the virtual academy. So let's say you know, you're a family that at some point you definitely want your child attending face-to-face. So that then would be probably the school-based instruction that you would want to choose, because although DHEC guidelines may say that at some point, due to the coronavirus, or maybe like Dr. Harrison said, because of inclement weather, we're not able to go face-to-face, but you would come back to it. So the e-learning would be, or the virtual learning would be just for a portion of the time. You would have, your child would have the same teacher or teachers if they were on face-to-face, meaning they were at school 5 days a week. They were hybrid, where again, that would be where they're coming, half of the class would be coming at one time to prevent close contact, or they were having to do virtual. With the virtual academy, flipping to the other side of that chart, the virtual academy is not fluid. It is not meant to go from face-to-face to hybrid to e-learning. If you're choosing the virtual academy, you're saying that you want your child to be 100% online learning all of the time. So the school-based instruction gives you some fluidity based on the coronavirus or inclement weather, whereas the virtual academy, you would be doing virtual learning all of the time.
All right, so the purpose of the virtual academy. Dorchester School District Virtual Academy will provide a virtual pathway for students and families to access a local, teacher-led virtual classroom environment. The three goals of the virtual academy: to provide a 100% virtual instructional model for students and families living in the Dorchester School District attendance zone, and to utilize School District 2's instructional practices just in a virtual setting. which we will talk about in a little more detail later. Provide an alternative learning option for students and parents. All right, so information regarding faculty and staff. Staffing of the virtual program will require that we transfer teachers from the traditional classrooms to become a virtual teacher. So keep that in mind as we're talking about moving back and forth and why the virtual academy is not built for and not intended for students to come back and forth, which we're going to talk more about later, is because in order to staff the virtual academy, we're going to have to pull teachers out of those traditional classrooms. And when students may want the option to go back, there may not be space at their home schools in order for that to happen. In the virtual academy, we will have fine arts and other electives, which we'll talk about in greater detail later on in the presentation. Depending on course requests, the virtual academy may use teachers and will use teachers, especially at the high school level, who are not Dorchester School District 2. Good examples of that are our partnership with Trident Tech and those professors that come in and teach the dual enrollment, the early college courses to our students. ECPI, those instructors will still be instructing the ECPI courses, and we've been using virtual SC, so virtual SC teachers will also be utilizing those. So majority of the teachers will be Dorchester School District 2, but we may use teachers also from other areas. Staff will have the same working hours and daily instructional schedule as the faculty and staff. And when we start to look later on in the presentation, we'll share with you a model and of what it looks like to be an elementary, a middle, and a high school student, what that schedule looks like. You're going to see it's going to look very, very familiar to the regular schedule that a student would have in a traditional brick and mortar school. All right, so information regarding students. Students must be enrolled in Dorchester School District 2 in order to enroll in the virtual academy. Students may enroll, and those students include students who have an IEP, a 504, students involved in gifted and talented classes, advanced placement classes at the high school level, dual enrollment classes. Students that are enrolled in any of those can also be part of the virtual academy, and we'll work diligently to meet the needs of our students to provide courses that fits their needs. Students must attend synchronous and asynchronous classes. And synchronous is basically virtual live classes where they're online with their teacher, certified teacher. Synchronous virtual attendance daily. They'll check in with their teacher. They'll have lessons with their teacher, or either schedule personalized conferences with their teacher. So we will have that virtual live class daily for our students, but also you'll have asynchronous activities. Activities where a teacher is put together work for a student to work on independently, or recorded videos where students can do guided video activities and different things like that, similar to a regular classroom environment in brick and mortar. So students may need and will most likely need to take on-site proctored assessments, especially when it comes to mandated state testing, and students will need to arrange their own transportation to their home school for those testing dates. Attendance, we will follow state regulations, and attendance will be taken for each class, similar and very similar, exactly the same as it is for their brick and mortar setting classes. So attendance will be taken. Students will follow the Dorchester 2 instructional calendar, meaning that, you know, if there's a holiday, students in the virtual academy have that same holiday, they have the same start date, they had the same end date, they had the same graduation, and we'll talk about graduation later on in the presentation. Students also can participate, since they are students in Dorchester 2 and they're enrolled in one of our schools. They can participate in extracurricular activities at their regular school, provided that parents provide their own transportation.
The next slide shows some information for the entire family. One of the main things that we want to point out here is that we do prefer a full year commitment for our virtual academy students. However, if a family requests to transfer back to a traditional instructional setting before or at the semester break in January, we would certainly take a look for that and work for a mid-year transition if we have space, if appropriate space is available. As Dr. Harrison said, we want to make sure that we are working with our students and with our families. And so, again, we know how important this decision is to make. So we're glad you're here with us tonight, hearing all of the advantages or possible disadvantages or interests that you would meet for your child. Parents and guardians must create a work environment at home for their children so they can successfully learn virtually. Not all students learn the same way. Some students learn best sitting at a table or a desk. Some students learn best being comfortable, possibly sitting on the floor with a lap desk. You know your children, you know what's going to be best, but we do strongly encourage that when your child wakes up and is ready to start classes in the morning, that they have a place to go consistently in the home where they're going to be getting their lessons. There is no additional cost other than the regular school registration fee that all students in the district have, and a new technology fee. As we mentioned before, every student will be getting a device, so there will be a minimal fee for that for technology. Students and their families must commit to the experience and the culture of the virtual learning environment. As you can imagine, it is different than what the traditional brick and mortar school are. And we'll talk in just a few minutes about what some of those responsibilities and expectations would be so that the students would have a positive experience. Parents and guardians will be required to maintain an open communication with teachers and staff. This is always important, whether you're in brick and mortar or in virtual, but it's especially important in the virtual academy, as you don't see the teachers quite as often, parents at events and things like that. So again, when we talk about the student-parent contract in just a minute, we'll set out some of those expectations that we're talking about, and communication is one of those. So what you see here is just a few of the components of the student-parent contract, and the student and parent would both sign off on this after going through it to show that you are in agreement as attending the virtual academy. For example, this first one says, I understand I must read and respond to emails, text, and phone calls from the Dorchester District 2 Virtual Academy teachers in a timely 24-hour manner. Another one, if your phone number, address, email address, or emergency contact changes, you understand that you're required to inform the DD2 Virtual Academy advisor in a timely manner. So again, these things are set up and discussed and signed off on early so that all the stakeholders, students, parents, and the Dorchester District 2 Virtual Academy teachers and advisors know what the expectations and the responsibilities are so that your child is successful. Some of the enrollment information that we'd like to go over that we've had a couple of questions on are whether your student will still be considered a student in their school of residence. Students will remain fully enrolled and continue enrollment the following year in their school of residence. Registration will also follow the same protocol as in the past, which again is one of the reasons why we need for students who are enrolling or completing the application for Virtual Academy, they also must complete the online registration for their school of residence. So it is a two-step process. Right now, the Virtual Academy enrollment process is open, and that's through the 28th, but the online registration has not opened up yet, but that would be a second step that you would need to complete. Students that are accepted to Rawlings Middle School of the Arts will remain eligible for that school the following school year. And if you have a child that is a senior this year, they would also graduate from their enrolled school of residence. Dr. Harrison talked a little bit earlier about partnering with some other outside agencies or companies. On the screen, you'll see some of those that we have listed. Virtual South Carolina is one that the high schools already have partnered with, and students take classes through them when they need to get a course in before graduation. Edmentum and Apex Learning are also used at our middle schools currently, and Edmentum and Calvert Learning will be the ones that we take a look at in the elementary school that will provide resources and enrichment lessons for our elementary students. Again, we are not having them to take over our lessons or, assign lessons on these programs for students to sit and work on all day. These are simply companies that we've reached out to and partnered with to help us in providing a good virtual experience. The last one that I didn't mention was Waterford. Currently, our kindergarten and first graders use this and also would be using this in our virtual academy. I want to talk a little bit about, we've had some questions regarding, will my child still have the same classes or access to classes that they have in the brick and mortar school? And the answer to that question is yes. You see on the screen that we have reading, English language arts, writing, math, science, social studies, all of the things that you normally experience with your child in the brick and mortar school. We've also added in a social emotional learning piece. We've had that in our traditional brick and mortar schools too, and we feel like it's especially important during this time with what the kids have experienced during the pandemic, with being out of school, not being able to socially engage with their friends, not being able to say goodbye to their teachers last year, especially at the elementary level. So we want to make sure that we address those concerns and those areas when students do return on September 8th. So what does an elementary daily schedule look like in a virtual academy? I have a sample that I'm sharing on the screen with you now. Again, you'll see some of the same areas that you are familiar with during the regular traditional school. So the students would start out in the morning and they would have a morning meeting with their teacher. The teacher would take attendance, and that attendance would be taken every class period, not just to start out in the morning, because we need to make sure that the students are engaged and that they are taking part in the lessons. This would also possibly be where they would provide the social and emotional learning piece. Our next class could be reading language arts. Currently in Dorchester District 2, we have a literacy model that's composed of 5 components, which takes about 2.5 hours a day. Reading, writing, word study, and so forth. The students would have daily lessons via our Microsoft Teams, where they would actually meet with the teachers face to face. All of our student devices have cameras, and so they would be able to see their teacher. They would be able to receive the lesson, possibly whole group, and then even break into differentiated groups where some of the students may go offline after the whole group lesson and do something independently or work on a computer program while a smaller group stays on with the teacher to get some differentiated lesson, and then those other students would come back on and they would flip-flop. We'll certainly build in brain breaks or movement breaks or restroom breaks during the day, just like if they're in the school building. And then we would move into math, which in our district, the elementary math model is 80 minutes. Again, they would probably get a 20-25 minute lesson whole group through the teacher, and then work on independent activities that the teacher would assign, or work on games or on mathematics technology programs. Lunch and recess has been set aside at 50 minutes, just like in the traditional brick and mortar school. Students would log off, they would have their lunch and recess, and then log back in for the next class, which on this schedule is either science or social studies. Again, the teacher would take attendance and would provide a lesson and then follow-up activities. Students will also be able to access their fine arts or their PE classes. Again, this will be done virtually, and this would be done by fine arts and PE teachers as well for the 40-minute time, just like in the regular school setting.
All right, so switching gears and looking at what does it look like learning opportunities for a middle school student. And like Ms. Estep said, at the middle school level and at the high school level, we are working very hard to make sure that we are providing the same opportunities and same courses as much as we can to our students that are at the middle school or the high school, as you'll see when we get to high school in just a minute. The same opportunities that they would have in a brick and mortar setting, we would like to extend those same opportunities and course selections to a student who is working virtually. So you'll see on the screen, students language arts, core and GT, math, core and GT, science, core and GT, social studies, core and GT, fine and performing arts will be also offered. Like Ms. Estep said, we will offer, which we've been doing in the brick and mortar setting, and also extend that to our virtual academy setting, our social emotional learning opportunities, related arts, which would include at the middle level, PE and health, intervention and support classes, as well as world languages, CTE classes, which would include keyboarding, financial literacy, and IT fundamentals, all courses that you would see if you went to your regular brick and mortar middle school. So what does that middle school day look like? You're going to see that it is 8:30 to 3, and it is going to look very familiar to the same schedule that you would get if you were attending your regular homeschool brick and mortar school. So 6 periods a day is what middle school students will focus on. Teachers will have in the morning built-in office hours, and that time is if students need individual help or if they need to contact the teacher and set up an appointment or independent work time. So students would have that office hours where they'd be able to get that individualized instruction from their teacher from 7:45 until 8:30. At 8:30, first period will begin, and in this example, we have English Language Arts as first period. And like Ms. Estep was saying, we don't expect our students to sit on a computer program or sit on a computer and just watch their teacher for 50 minutes. We expect differentiated instruction. We expect that our teachers will be delivering instruction different ways for different students. So we may start out whole group in English Language Arts or any course, and then may switch to small groups and group collaboration projects, or even individualized individual work that students could work on. So just because they're in first period, it may be that they're signing on, they're getting some whole group instruction from their teacher, and then they're working offline for a period of time on the assignment. Very similar to what you would see if you went into a traditional middle school where a teacher starts a lesson, lets kids get in groups in that lesson, and even work independently on assignments. That same class structure we felt was important, and that's why the schedule itself, that structure we felt like was important for students to be familiar with, regardless if they're in the brick and mortar or if they're virtual. So you'll see second period, just the example is a math class. Third period could be a science class. We have 10 minutes that are built in between classes. That's a 10-minute break, brain break, where students can go get something to drink, get something to eat, maybe if they need to use the restroom, those types of things. We build in that time between the classes. We also have built in an advisory and lunch in the middle of the day. So you'll see at 11:20, advisory starts, and that's where some of our social emotional check-ins can take place. That can be some individualized time where where teachers have set aside where if students need that teacher, they can check in with that teacher, they can ask questions with that teacher. And then from 11:40 to 12:10, students will have lunch, and that lunch period is built in for our students. And then in the afternoon, you'll see they have 3 periods, and just in the example that we have in the schedule, social studies, and then maybe the related arts or some type of elective would be in the afternoon. So this is what a typical day would look like for a middle school student. How about high school? High school learning opportunities. And I would like to say to start this with, again, we are doing everything that we can to make sure that we can provide courses to our students in the virtual academy, the same courses that they would have access to in the brick and mortar. What that hinges on, and it even is a factor, is student course requests. Regardless if you're in the brick and mortar or if you're in the virtual academy, if one student signs up for a class, it's going to be very difficult to have a class for one student in a brick and mortar setting or a virtual setting. So course requests really are going to drive the master schedule, especially at the high school level. But I can assure you that our team is going to be flexible. Our team is going to be creative and innovative, and we're going to try to provide your students as much resources and provide them access to as many opportunities and classes as we can. You'll see on the learning opportunities, English, math, science, social studies, CTE, so your career and technical education classes. That also we are looking at and having conversations with the career school. How can that tie in with our virtual academy if a student is signed up for a career school class? So we're having conversations with the career school. Fine and performing arts, other electives. I know one question that came up, JROTC. Would that be an option? And again, we can't say that it's not an option right now until we get course requests, and then we can see how we can assign students to classes. And again, being very creative, flexible, and innovative in our approach to try to provide students every opportunity we can. World languages and social emotional learning, also opportunities at the high school level. So what does that high school day look like? Here's a sample schedule for our high school students. At 8 o'clock, teachers will be available at office hours, similar to what we saw in elementary and middle. And that's where students can get independent help by appointment or work independently on assignments from the previous day or assignments assigned by the teacher. First block, and I will just, before I get into the block, students in the virtual academy will focus on 4 classes each day. So first block, second block, third block, and fourth block. First block at 9:30, and in the example we have course 1, they may have English first period. And again, we're not expecting for students to sit on the computer from 9:30 until 10:55 and watch the teacher teach or work on a program. Again, we're going to have whole group instruction, small group instruction. We'll have individual instruction where kids are working independently on activities in each one of these blocks. In the middle of the day, you'll see, just like we have at our home schools and brick and mortar schools, if you're familiar with IoT, that is the lunch period where students have lunch, and they also have individualized learning time where students can go back and work with teachers, any teacher that they choose, whether they're struggling in a course or they're making up an assignment or they were just have individual questions about that are course specific. That's a time where they can reach out to those instructors, and those instructors will be available during that time for our students, the same as they are at a brick and mortar setting. This is also where we can have some career and counseling check-ins and some of our social emotional check-ins with our counseling department and small group assistants. And again, students, this is the time when they would have lunch, very similar to what they would see in a brick and mortar high school. Then in the afternoon, they have their third and fourth block. But again, students focusing in on 4 classes each day, and synchronous and asynchronous lessons would be provided. So that's typical high school day. Looks very familiar. If you were to go to Somerville High School or you were to go to Fort Dorchester High School, this is or Ashley Ridge High School, this is very similar to what your brick and mortar schedule would look like.
So what we'd like to do for the next few minutes is post some of the frequently asked questions that we've been getting even before our presentation this evening. And as a reminder, we do have a frequently asked questions document posted on the Virtual Academy website, on Dorchester District 2's website, and we will provide you with that address, that website address, on the last slide at the end of our presentation. So the first question, go ahead.
We got a little tripped up there, sorry. So the first question that we've been receiving, will you offer specialized instruction? And the answer to that is yes. So how will we offer specialized instruction? Students who have an IEP or 504 may participate in the Virtual Academy. Your child's school-based IEP or 504 team will meet and review and identify individual services and supports that would be necessary so that we can meet the needs of your child's unique needs. Also, gifted and talented, as you saw, gifted and talented services will be offered to students who qualify. And at the high school level especially, we will offer our dual enrollment courses as well as our advanced placement courses. And again, these courses are based on student requests.
Does your child need a computer or other textbook resources? Absolutely. And the good news is that Dorchester District 2 will provide an electronic device to students that are enrolled in the DD2 Virtual Academy, as well as at the school levels. And that's in grades 4K through 12th grade. So again, they will all receive an electronic device. Pickup dates will be scheduled for parents to come and pick up those devices and any other supplies that may be needed for instruction in the Virtual Academy, whether that be art supplies or workbooks or anything that they might possibly need, possibly math manipulatives for the younger kids and so forth. One of the things that we do want to point out is that in order to receive a student device, a technology and resource tutorial will be required for both parents and students to engage in, and there will be a form then, of course, to sign off on before receiving that device, and that a lot of things will be covered in that as to how to take care of it, what it could be used for, what the platform is that will be used, and those kinds of things.
All right, so a big question that we've been getting is, can my student return to the traditional school setting at any time during the school year? The answer to that one is really the second bullet, is that we are asking that our families commit to a full year is preferred. Really going back to the first bullet, we ask that because as we are looking at staff and allocating our teachers, again, we're going to have to take teachers out of our traditional classrooms. And if students wish to go back at any time, it's going to be hard for us to staff the traditional classroom as well as the Virtual Academy classes with teachers so that we can meet the needs of our students and offer all of the courses that we would traditionally offer in a brick and mortar or in a virtual school setting. So we're asking that a full year commitment. Again, if a family would like to transfer back, we are going to consider that at the semester because we do understand that some families may wish to do that, and we want to be flexible. We want to work with our families, and we would consider a mid-year transition. But again, it's going to be based on if there's appropriate space available. If a student wants to go back in an English, all the English classes are full, all the math classes are full, we don't have seats available, that's going to be something that we'll have to take into consideration. And we really are encouraging families, if you're looking at the Virtual Academy because of COVID-19 and you're going to judge your decision based on whether the disease activity level is high, medium, or low, and going back and forth, again, that's not what the Virtual Academy is for. But we would encourage you to please look at our school-based model that we submitted to the State Department, where we have a hybrid model for moderate spread, and we have a e-learning virtual model for our students if it is a high spread. And we encourage you, if that is why you're considering the virtual academy, reach out to your principal before you make that decision. Reach out to your school and have that conversation so that we can determine which is the best. Because after fully understanding what the school model is, which we didn't focus a whole lot on in this presentation because it's on the virtual academy, but after you have a full really good understanding of what that model is, you may decide that, well, that is the best choice for me and my family, and that's the route we're going to go. Or you may decide, no, I'm going to commit to that full year with the opportunity that I may or may not be able to transition back in January at the break. Then we do ask you to consider that. But we are asking our families to commit to a full year is what we are preferring.
Can I make my decision to enroll once I know what traditional school will look like? The DD2 VA enrollment process closes next Tuesday. The reason for us doing that is because, of course, like we mentioned before, we are looking at those teachers that have applied to be virtual academy teachers, and we have to determine those allocations that will mean that we are transferring teachers from the brick and mortar schools to the virtual academy. So waiting until a decision is made when school starts on September 8th would be difficult in doing that. So at this time, we are asking that the decision be made by the time the enrollment closes out next Tuesday. Those accurate enrollment numbers will be extremely important in order for us to have time to allocate the district resources and get teachers in place to do that. Again, I will remind you that if you complete the virtual academy enrollment form, you will need to go back when the open online registration form opens for your school of residence and complete that as well. So this is a two-step process.
Another big question that we've been asked is, can students participate in extracurricular activities? Like, will my student graduate with their class at their home school? Can they attend prom, participate in band and other extracurricular sports and clubs? And the answer to that is yes. Since our students are Dorchester District 2 students, they are still connected to their home school. They are just choosing the virtual academy as the model or method of how they're going to receive their instruction. Then students at the virtual academy can go back to participate with their home school extracurricular activities. The only catch to that is that we're asking that parents are responsible for providing their own transportation to any after-school activities.
Okay, I had mentioned earlier that we would provide you with a couple of addresses at the end of our presentation. So if you have other questions once we log off tonight that comes to mind that you say, oh, I wish I would have asked this, we certainly, please feel free to reach out to us at the email address dd2va@dorchester2.k12.sc.us, and someone will get back with you. Again, check those frequently asked questions. That document is posted on the Virtual Academy website. Your question may be on there because as we get questions, we will certainly be updating that. At the bottom of the screen is the website address for our Virtual Academy that is on the DD2 website, and you will be able to see all of the information about the Virtual Academy there. Not only are the frequently asked questions are there, the actual Virtual Academy enrollment application is there. We had postings for our sessions tonight, and we also have an informational sheet on there at this time. As we go through and other things need to be added, we will certainly update, so check back there often.
And we have about 15 minutes, and I would also refer you back to that website if you'd like to watch this presentation again. It will be posted on that website. But we have about 15 minutes, and we have still some questions that are coming through. So what we're going to do is we're not going to end this session because we have a very good team that is in the backgrounds that are answering those questions for you. So we want to be able to answer as many questions as we can tonight. So we're going to stay on. I'm going to mute this presentation, and we're going to jump in and try to help answer some of those questions. And we'll be back on, and we'll give you a notice before we end the presentation. But continue to ask those questions, and we will continue to answer. But again, thank you for being here, and hope you got a lot of great information tonight. All right, we have reached 8 o'clock, so we just want to again say thank you for joining us tonight. A couple of quick reminders for everyone as we are wrapping up our session. A lot of great question and answers. One thing that we did is we have updated the website on the informational page, so that is updated, and we hope that you caught that change to the web page where you can go. We encourage you to also go and look at the frequently asked questions that will be posted on the Virtual Academy website. And one question that kept coming up, and I just wanted to address it again, is about students who want to return mid-year. Again, we will look at those students on a case-by-case basis, as well as working with their school, their home school, to determine if there's space and seats available at that school. And we'll do everything we can to accommodate and work with our families. But that would be done at the mid-year point. We do encourage our families to reach out to your school principals to have those conversations if you are still unclear about which is best for you and your family, whether virtual academy is best or the school-based model is best. We encourage you to reach out to your homeschool principal and have those questions and that conversation so that you can get those questions answered. Again, you can email questions directly to the Virtual Academy. If you register, you will not receive a confirmation email, but we will be in touch as we start to develop a master schedule and we start to build classes for our students. We'll be in touch and we'll start to have those conversations about student schedules as we move forward. But again, thank you for joining. We hope that you got a lot of great information, a lot of great questions and answers in the Q&A. Our team worked very hard to answer those questions, but we appreciate all of your time tonight, and have a good night. Anything else?
Yes. Question did not get answered. We will certainly continue to answer those and post them on the frequently asked questions document on the Virtual Academy page. We had quite a few questions come in tonight, and our moderators did their best to keep up, but again, there were quite a few. So please be patient with us and we'll get those answered as quickly as possible and get those posted for you. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.